Welcome back to the Eduverse Enigma podcast. This week, we're chatting with special guests Angeline King and Michele O'Brien, the Indigenous Studies Coordinator at Georgian College. This episode, we'll be diving into the Indigenous culture and language, VR tools for language preservation, and the importance of experiential learning, especially for Indigenous learners. You won't want to miss it.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Eduverse podcast. Really excited to have two guests on today. We have Angeline and Michele joining us from Georgian College, and they've been doing some really exciting work with virtual reality at Georgian. So I'm excited to jump into the work that they've been doing and the changes that they see happening in the education space as it comes to immersive technology and other technologies and things influencing the space. So yeah, hello, Angeline and Michele. How's it going?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good.
Happy to be here today.
Awesome. Happy to have you here.
Thanks for inviting us, Evan. Thank you so much.
For sure. Really happy to have you. And for anybody watching the video, sorry that we can't see Michelle's beautiful face, but she had some internet issues, so she's jumping on with her phone today. But for the audience to jump into it, could each of you just give a quick background on yourself and what got you into the education space, first of all, and then interested in virtual reality?
Do you want me to go first, Michele?
Sure, Angie, go first. That'd be great.
Yeah. So, Anin Bojo, Shkishka Kwan Dejnakas, and Chimnasingwoden Donjaba, and Megazi Dodam. So, what I said was, my spirit name is New Day Woman, and I'm from Christian Island, and I'm with the Eagle Clan. And I've been with Georgian College for 5 years now. I'm alumni of Georgian. I did the same program that I'm teaching now. It was called something different. So right now it's called Anishinaabe and Program Development. And when I graduated in five years ago, I was actually in my 50s. I went back to school quite late. I wanted to go back and learn the language, how to read and write it. And so I went out into the workforce for a couple of years, and then Michele contacted me to ask me to come back and work at Georgian. So I've been there since, and we've been doing a lot of different programs since. So I'll let Michele introduce herself, but I'm a professor there, and I'm quite happy to have been there for the last 5 years.
Awesome. Thank you, Angeline.
Oh, me glad, Angeline. Anin Bojo, Michele O'Brien, Indigenous Cause. I am the program coordinator for Indigenous Studies programming. Very proudly to say, I was telling the students today, come January, I've been at the college in Indigenous Studies for 22 years.
Amazing. Congratulations.
And it doesn't feel like it. Honestly, it really doesn't. I wish I had another 22, but we'll see. I'm just so happy to be able to do what I love so much. And I teach within our programs too as well. I'm not a language speaker. I do speak a little bit. I did take Ojibwe 1 to 4 a few years ago so that I could do my part in revitalization of the language. And just being an advocate for moving the language forward, I think, with the new generation of learners. And I think that's why we came up with the idea to do virtual reality within the language program.
Amazing. And we'll jump into what you are doing in the language program with virtual reality in a second. But I think an interesting place to start off, Angeline, you're saying you just went through the program 5 years ago. So on your side, did you think that you would be coming back to teach in 5 years? And then Michele, I'm curious to know what made you think Angeline would be a good fit to bring back to the program.
Well, I actually did not think I would ever come back to Georgian College. The program was totally different back then from the teachers I taught or who taught me. But as I'm going through my 2-year program there, I've seen a few things that I thought would be better for learning as a student. And so when I came back and Michele said, here's the programs I want you to teach. And I was really excited because I'm more hands-on, experiential learning. So that's what I incorporated into these programs. And so I take my students out into the community because typically our people don't learn in an inside environment. We're out in the cultural environment. So hands-on stuff is really important. And they tend to be able to absorb it a lot better because you're doing everything together outside and learning language along with it. So I think it's worked out really well. We've had some really good graduates move on to do other things in the language. So my main focus really in this program is to be able to develop language speakers that will move on to become language teachers. So, but Michele can cut in there and tell you about why she contacted me.
Why did I think Angie was so special?
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you. When I noticed when Angie was a student with us, she actually lived the farthest in the program, and she was always the first one there. And whether it was a snowstorm or whatever it may be, she was always there at school to learn. And also, I remember we were doing program renewal that year, and I thought, you know what, let's get the students' input on changes in the program. And I went in and asked, and Angie was the only one that came forward. And she came and sat in our meetings, and she contributed to the changes. And I just found her to have a lot of personality that I carry, is just getting the job done. And so I thought, when I had heard that she graduated from, well, I knew that she graduated from the program, but I heard that she was teaching in Toronto and that she had moved to Barrie. I thought, oh my gosh, that's a long hike for her. I think I'm going to contact her and see if I could steal her. And so I did. I said, Angie, are you tired of driving to Toronto every day? And she said, well, and I said, I'd love to offer you a job to teach. Because Angie has something that not many possess, and that is she's a first language speaker. So the language is very near and dear to her heart. And she knows the importance of giving that gift to others. And so all around, she's just an amazing, wonderful human. And I'm so happy that I get to partner with her with the virtual reality.
I love it.
Well, thanks, Michele.
If you ever need a reference, Angie, I'll give you a reference.
We'll pay you your $20 later.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
I love that so much that, you could see those areas that might need to be improved in the program while you were a student, and having that passion to come back and continue to improve it as a professor. That's so amazing.
And that was the really key point to a lot of students maybe not succeeding in the program, is because they needed to be able to do that hands-on and where they were good at. A lot of students that come in that don't know the language, they're just like babies. They start from day one. And so they're learning to speak the language, learning to read and write it. So obviously a fluent speaker that has some language comes in and they're not as good with reading and writing. And that's only natural because they've only heard the language. So there was no written language before. Mm-hmm. Prior to coming, all these studies now where they're coming in and learning to read and write it. So of course, they read and write a lot faster. It's a little bit intimidating when you're a fluent speaker and you're not grasping the reading and the writing part of it, because you can automatically do it in your head while you're speaking, changing, your suffixes and your pronouns and stuff like that. You're adding it. But when it's in a pattern and paradigms and all that, you're not up to snuff with that. You just know you can do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things you have to learn when you're coming back to school as a fluent speaker. So it's harder for a fluent speaker to come back to learn those two things, the reading and the writing. So, but what I also notice is when I was going to school, I wasn't getting a lot of hands-on stuff to do, and I wasn't able to like show what I could do. The teachers taught differently. So what I do with my students is everybody gets a chance to go up to the board and start writing sentences. We can all take a look at it and we can see where we're going wrong and where we need help. And I know it's a little bit intimidating at first when students do it, but they just loved it. They almost ran to the whiteboard just to go and write their sentence because they were excited to find new words and write new sentences. So I like to do that kind of stuff with my students. I think for them, you're going to end up wanting to be up at the front of the classroom anyway if you want to teach, right? So this gives them a good opportunity to showcase themselves as well.
For sure. And that's such a great way to bring peers together. I know personally I've been starting to learn Japanese on Duolingo.
Ooh.
And yeah, just kind of as a challenge. There isn't really a reason behind it, but I decided to download Duolingo and challenge myself a little bit by learning Japanese, and hasn't been coming the greatest. I'll be honest, it's a challenge. So
pick the hardest language in the world, right?
Exactly. But yeah, like you said, I can see how frustrating that would be if you like completely understood how to speak Japanese in my case, but then you're going through and you don't know like, what are all of these symbols in Japanese, at least what do these mean, or how to write them into a full sentence. So I can definitely see that struggle, but to your point of bringing students up to write, I think that's amazing, because I know myself on Duolingo, I'm always watching the leaderboard and competing with my peers there. So it's like even more, you're maybe a little bit competition, but then you're getting that peer feedback as well when you're writing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I also think, though, Angie's being a little humble, because when she says she likes to do experiential learning, so in the past, she's taken our students to the Toronto Zoo to do a scavenger hunt in the language so that they get to actually experience being with animals, like in person. And she doesn't just show them pictures.
Right.
She actually takes them where they are. She's one time she said, I'm taking the students to the secondhand store. I said, for what? And she said, well, I taught them about money and clothes and things. And so now they're going to go shopping, but they can only use the language. And I
That's
went,
amazing.
Wow. Yeah, it is amazing. And then she would hold teas too as well. So she would have a tea, an afternoon tea, and have all these wonderful things to snack on, and they could only speak the language while they were having the tea. So she really is very creative in thinking about a lot of experiential learning opportunities, because that's the best way if you're going to learn.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I only wish that I was in a class like yours when I had some great French teachers when I was going through learning French, but yeah, it'd be amazing to go to the zoo or do all those types of things as well. I love it.
I've actually taken my students 2 years ago, the ones that just graduated, to Black River, which is just outside of Aurelia. And we did a 2-day immersion. So we stayed in cabins, and through the whole day, it was all language immersed. So there was no cell phones on. They were left on the side. They could hear them go off. And if it was urgent, they could go answer it. But other than that, it was all language. And they cooked in the language. They did activities in the language. The only time they were allowed not to use the language was at 6 o'clock when everything was finished. Dinner was finished, and then they can speak to themselves. And I'll tell you, the first day, there was a lot of silence.
I could see why.
Not a lot of cooking, eh?
No. No,
Yeah.
they would just look at each other and they're trying to think of what they can say to each other and stuff like that. So, I mean, it was a little intimidating for them, but I think with the feedback that we got from it, it was a good learning curve for them to see that, you can immerse yourself into the language and be able to absorb a lot more of it, right? And we had our elder, Noknis Ernestine, who's our elder at Georgian, come, and she would read stories or do activities with them and that, just to give it a little bit of a different little flair to them being there for 2 days. So yeah, we're going to do it again next year.
Amazing. That is so cool, and I love that your elder was able to come and read stories there as well and be involved. That's amazing. I guess that kind of leads into like one of my questions, like what before we get into the virtual reality side of things, like what has Georgian been able to do, and maybe I guess it would lead into VR, but as a college, like what is Georgian doing uniquely that is allowing both your program to flourish as well as how virtual reality ties into it, I guess.
I'll
That goes to both of you.
answer that.
I can't even tell you. Our college is so innovative, and and that's because we have a wonderful lead who's the manager of immersive technology, Rob Terrio.
He's on the podcast tomorrow. So.
Oh, good, because I'll tell you, with being at the college for such a long time, and for this to have come just after, we were home for a month or two for the pandemic, and it was, I don't know, it was something I needed anyway. And, and it was very challenging in the beginning, but it was just very uplifting. But just to watch our college and under, the guidance of Rob and what he's been able to bring to different departments, not just one industry, and just the support. Greg McGregor, he is the manager of student services in our department because the faculty are under studies, but Greg is the one that has the ability to help with monies and opportunities. So I always include him if I know that it's going to be a benefit to the students. And when Rob called me, he messaged me and he said it was summer 2022. I mean 2020. It's 22 now, and he said, Michele, he said, have you thought about doing virtual reality and within the language program? And I'm like, no, no, and to me that was like gaming and all that, and I'm like, I can't game, so and then. And it didn't take long. It was just a minute or two. And I said, you know what? This is not about me. This is about the next generation of learners. This is about enticing young ones to want to learn a language that is dying. And we have to do, we have to do every single thing we can to bring them to want to and inspire them to want to learn the language. And I'm thinking this may be one of the ways. Right. And so Rob, he started off right away. He went and built us an Indigenous world in AltSpace VR. And he built us a home, and it was pretty cool. I have to tell you what he did. And he listened to us, and then, the most wonderful, wonderful person to work with, I will have to tell you. And then Angie took her students in there in the fall. And our manager thought, let's get some headsets and send them to the students so that the students can come in. And I thought, oh, this is going to work. This is fantastic, And Angie will tell you about the experience when the students went into the AltSpace home at first, and then. I think it was early November, and Rob said, oh, I have to introduce you to someone that I know. He's a developer and from BitSpace, Dan Blair. And if you want to create some worlds for Engage VR, and I went, okay, here we go. And we met with him, and so that was 2 years ago this November, and we started off building our first Indigenous world, which was language in the home, because in our ANPD program, Anishinaabe and program development, we have language in the home, language in the workplace, language in the natural environment, and language in the community. And I said to Angie, well, why don't we just base the worlds upon those courses? So when you teach them, you can take the students in there. And so they started off building our home, and we launched that in May 2021. And since then, we've completed all the worlds. We're so excited, I can't even tell you. We had a launch 3 weeks ago, and I think initially there was 23 people that had come in, and there were some people from the United States and different virtual reality universities and colleges that were doing or trying to put together projects and have contacted us, which is great. Some Indigenous groups too, and communities, and we've had so many opportunities to come out of this virtual reality. It's unbelievable. But we are, I just sometimes can't even put it into words what's happened in the last 2 years. And but Angie will be able to talk to you about the experience of probably the first experience of the students and the new students that we just we sent them all headsets in the mail, or they picked them up, and they all came in 2 weeks ago, and we had City TV News come and film them. We were on the news, and so she'll tell you their reaction to this.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and just to preface, how many students are there in the class?
We have 10
that
awesome. Are currently enrolled in the program for just a language program, and so it was quite easy to be able to send those headsets out to each and one of them. They're not too far away. We have a couple that are a little bit further off, but they all managed to get it within the second day or the next day after they were sent out.
Perfect.
But yeah, so they were I'll go back to the very first time we went into all space with our students. They've graduated since, but when COVID hit, it hit all of us in a certain way where we weren't used to being online and learning online, and it really kept our hands tied to what we could do with our students. And I mean, the creativity that you have to build to try and get your students motivated in something that we need to be in a class together with or out in the community. So when Rob introduced VR to us, we were gung-ho with it with Michele, and we worked endless hours trying to get this on top of our jobs. We were doing this at night, weekends, whatever, to try and get it going. But I'll tell you, when the very first time the students went in there, we had a couple of guys, they knew a little bit about gaming, and the girls weren't so good at it, so they didn't know the techniques on how to use the toggles and stuff like that. There's a basketball court out there, so the guys were picking up the balls and playing basketball, and they were throwing them in the hoops and whatnot, and the girls were going, I want to learn. So they were out there playing basketball with each other. So when these things happen, automatically I think, okay, so we have to develop words that go along with basketball, like throw me the ball, bounce the ball, throw it in the hoop, run with the ball. So anything that was associated with basketball, we learned those words and then utilized it in the space. And that's one of the major things that we do in this course, is we learn the words and then we go and apply them in the worlds. But the one thing that we did not know when virtual reality started was we really missed that human contact with each other. But I swear when we were all together in that virtual reality and you were talking to your students face to face, it was unbelievable. Right, Michelle? I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
We're just standing
Yeah.
there talking to each other in
Yeah.
virtual reality. And
Yeah.
I swear every emotion that you feel when you're just standing in front of somebody was the same.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, it was awesome. And the student just loved it. And they loved going into that. Like every Thursday, we'd have the course and they said, oh, I can't wait to get into virtual reality. Can we just meet in there?
Yeah. Oh my God. But, Angie, what was so exciting, though, was the new group of students that Rob came down with his Victor, who works with him, to help the students log in to their headsets and so on. But when they got into the virtual reality world, they were like freaking right out. And these are not young people either. They're students of all ages, like right up even in, I think there's one at least in their 50s. And so they're not young learners, but when they put that headset on, they came into the virtual world. You could hear them, oh my gosh, Michelle, this is freaking awesome. And they were just, and we were like, oh my God, not one of them had something negative to say. They thought they said, it's like we live in here. And we were, Angie and I, we were killing ourselves laughing, right? Because we know, but to be with someone that is experiencing virtual reality for the first time is just incredible. It really is. And we're really proud of the worlds because they are absolutely beautiful. Really, really beautiful. And we've also looked at virtual reality as a means of preserving the language. For instance, in Language in the Workplace, we have a schoolroom, and our elder, who actually is an avatar in 3 different worlds, she's come in before, and we have a recording of her, like a picture of her on our classroom wall in our classroom in language in the community, and Language in the Workplace, sorry. And you click on it, and she does a whole prayer in Anishinaabemowin, and we have that forever and ever. Like, it's just so beautiful. We can just go in and we can learn a prayer in the language. And we have our 7 grandfather teachings on the wall. And just to be able to, like, we'll have that as long as we have our worlds. Mm-hmm. And so we find that really special. We named the elementary school after her, Nokomis Baldwin, too, which brought tears to her eyes. It really did. But it was an honor to be able to do that for her because of what she has given to us, what she has taught us, and how she inspires us each day. And so even though it's in virtual reality, we were able to name the school after her.
That's still such a great gesture, and I think that's a really great point. I had kind of a million questions coming off of what both of you just said, but I think a great point there of what you were saying of preserving that space. There was an article, and I can't remember the name of the island, but there's an island, I believe, somewhere around Asia, but it might be in South America, but because of climate change, it's starting to disappear and get flooded over. So they're looking at how they can take their digital twin of their island and put it into a VR space as well as all of their culture and bring it in there. So it is preserved, obviously unfortunate circumstances, but I wonder, what are both of your thoughts on preserving all kinds of different languages and cultures, and specifically with what you're doing, how do you see that being able to spread possibly beyond Georgian? You mentioned a couple people were reaching out to you, but I think that's a really interesting piece of the innovation Georgian's doing, reaching beyond just the college.
Okay, so one of the things with the VR is because we put it into Anishinaabe and Ojibwe, these worlds could be easily changed into different languages. Cree, Mohawk, Oji-Cree. And I mean, Mohawk has 7 different dialects that they have, and they can go. The worlds are already built for them. The items are already there. All they need to do is just swap up the words. So that's one way of being able to preserve it in different languages, right? And then another thing that was mentioned to us as well is how virtual reality could help the third world countries as far as even just teaching them, right? Teaching them just basic school. But language to me is the key thing for our virtual reality, and to be trailblazers for virtual reality for all colleges and universities. And like Michele said, it's not just our language program. Rob has done wonderful things with paramedics, nursing, and then being able to get practical experience through virtual reality. And I think it's just going to be part of the next generation of learning and being able to utilize that a lot more in the classroom. So I think it's going to go a long way for preservation for any language, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree there. Like, so after we had our first launch, we were contacted by a couple of different First Nation communities. And we actually met with one community back in January, and I thought, and we find people are in shock when we show them. Because I always get off, I go, Rob, are our worlds good? He goes, oh, yeah. I went, okay. Because I said, because people just seem like, wow, like in awe, right? But there's almost speechless or something. And I'm like, okay, so they are good, right, Rob? He's like, yeah. And I said, okay. And I said, so people are just like, I guess, amazed at what can be created to create language. So the First Nation community that we first met with was from Walpole Island. And then I think they must have applied, maybe they applied for a grant, I don't know, but we heard from them again. And they're like, we're interested in what can we do with, how can we use your worlds? And we would like to maybe even create new ones for our own community. We're like, we're going to meet with, we've met with so many people. And then, we're meeting with a Confederation College coming up. And then we've met. Oh, and I got contacted last weekend from an Indigenous media group that is on a 5-year project in creating some form of Indigenous game. And they want to see our worlds to see what we've done. And we're like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And then Angie, Rob, and I were blessed, very blessed with winning the Innovation Award for teaching, the premier, the Ontario.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Ministry of Colleges and University Award of Excellence.
Yes, Rob, Angie, and I, our dean, Angie and my dean, Helen Pierce, she nominated the 3 of us. And so we received that in January.
Oh, amazing. Huge congrats. I was reading a little bit about it before this, but hearing more now, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and we were humble. Like I said to Rob, I don't think anyone else got nominated, right? And he's like, I said, how come they picked us? And then we found out it was like out of like 700 or 1,000 people. I went, no way. And I said, and they picked us? Oh my gosh. And so we're very humble that way because we didn't set out to win anything, but, because we're just thinking of how can we better the lives of our students to learn.
For sure.
And then we won the Gold CCAN Award for Indigenous Education this year as well. Indigenous Studies and Services did. And a good part of that was because of the innovative work we've been doing with virtual reality. And so we're very, very blessed. So Georgian actually, we put Georgian on the map a little, even though other departments actually are doing very well too. But as an Indigenous Studies department that we've been at Georgian College since 1995. And that's when we had our first program begin there. And but they're very proud of us too. And it's very nice to be able to do those things for our people, right?
For sure. No, that's just incredible that you're able to do that and that you're able to get that support. Because I know ourselves working with colleges and universities, it can be hard to even get that like type of innovative support for some of those more traditional programs like business or like policing or things that are kind of have been around for forever since the college opened up. So to get that type of support yourselves, it's amazing that Georgian is doing that, and I can see why you're winning these awards, because you're putting in that work and able to do these innovative things.
We have an amazing new president. He just came on in the beginning of September, but August. Kevin Weaver. He used to be the vice president of academics, and he supports indigenization at the college with his whole heart, and we can't be more happier. We're very, very lucky. Very, very lucky.
Amazing. And looking at other colleges and people that are in the audience that are at other colleges and thinking about this themselves, it sounds like they should really look for a Rob or some sort of support person in the VR space. What are some of the other things tips and tricks that they should think about, or lessons learned as you've been launching VR into your program?
One of them is to find a team that's passionate about moving forward with it, because I think the team that we had, Michele and I and Rob and the other faculty speakers were involved, as well as putting some of the words to the items in the VR. I think we gelled really well together as work, and I know a lot of times, you have to be willing to go beyond your job to be able to get something going that you have a passion for, and all three of us had that passion going at the same time. We're constantly in communication with each other, and just finding the right people to do this and to move forward. And anybody can do it, but it's just finding people that have that passion to put it all together, I think. What do you think, Michele?
Yeah, I think the same. You need a lead person that, because I'm not a fluent speaker, so my role mostly was to coordinate. And I love marketing. I can go in there and I just fly around. I love marketing the virtual reality. If anyone messages me and they say, "Oh, can I? Of course. Where do you want to meet?" And I'll go in there and I'll share my screen, and I'm just so proud of it. And our last environment, language in the natural environment, is so incredibly beautiful. To the water, shimmering water, and the beautiful sunset they put in there. And even Rob said many, many times that it could almost be used as an environment for mental health, to go in there and even meditate and just to clear your mind, because it's got all these different kinds of trees in there, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it looks very realistic. And so we are very, very lucky.
Amazing. And that, definitely makes a lot of sense. It's one of the key points that I always tell people when we're starting a project in VR is, you need to get that team together and have that mixture of people to support every aspect of the project that you're working on. And the passion piece is so key for sure. Looking at the technical side, I know you said you started in AltSpace and now you're using Engage. I'm curious, and I don't want. I know both of them are great for different reasons, so I'm not asking you to put one of them down. But curious, was the visual quality the main reason to move from AltSpace to Engage, or what were some of the other things that might have influenced that?
Oh, how's it going for you, you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just thinking for people in the audience, it's one of the main questions I get is what platform should we use? And we suggest different ones for all different use cases. So.
Definitely Engage.
Yeah.
Engage has so much more, what do you call, aspects. Like they
Yeah,
have holograms, right? Is it holograms they're called?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Where you can put, like animals, you can just bring them in. We have iPads we can write on. We have sticky notes and all sorts of different other assets that can be put into that world. Whereas Altspace was a good learning curve for us. And if it's something that people want to just like play around with, I think that's a good program to use. But most definitely Engage is what brought us here right now.
So you would say Altspace for yourselves and probably for others is kind of great for jumping in and learning the ropes of VR and maybe some just general basic meetings. But then when you need those extra features and things, Engage is going to offer all the teaching tools you need.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a little bit more stable because one night Angie and I were doing a presentation for her community, and we went to show them our Altspace world, and the world disintegrated right in front of our eyes.
Oh my God!
Like our assets were flying all over the place, and we were like, "Oh my God!" Yeah, midair. And we're like, "Oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry." You know, and we're just like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Engage, the only thing with Engage, it does a lot of updates. And so what happens every time it updates, it kind of moves your assets around or maybe takes recordings away or whatever. And so it's constant upkeep. But it has the capability, it's a better like teaching platform to be able to take the students in and from that aspect. And but we're still looking for another platform that would be a lot more user friendly for others out in the community or organizations that we're hoping to affiliate with that are not as comfortable technically, because like I said, it is constant upkeep. And we've been contacted by our local school board too, and they're wanting to use that within their schools to teach the language too as well. And also we had a meeting with the Ministry of Education on languages, and some language teachers came in from various areas all over Ontario, and they were very interested too as well. But a lot of the times people are like afraid, but all I can say is to people is just go for it. No, I didn't grow up gaming. I did not even know how to use a gamepad because I'd always get nauseous and stuff. My kids gamed, but I didn't. But since using it and seeing what it can do and the joy that it brings to others to learn, I just say go for it. Really, you have nothing to lose, and if you have an opportunity to introduce virtual reality, then introduce it. You know, our next project. Andy's going, what? Our next project, I'd like to do a cultural world where we could create a world to teach others about truth and reconciliation, about treaties, and about different aspects of the culture from Mohawk to Métis to Anishinaabe. And because what we're finding out there, I think at this point in life, we have more allies than we have ever had for the last, I don't know how many years. And people want to ask questions and people want to learn about the Indigenous culture, but sometimes they don't know how to ask it. And sometimes they feel they're going to say something to offend. But if they can go into a virtual reality world and learn and gain some knowledge to give them that comfort and safety and to be able to ask those questions, wow, that would be beautiful. And that virtual reality could be used by anybody around the world. And so that's what I'd like to see our next project.
I love it. That's such a important piece of, or an important aspect of what virtual reality can do, of being able to have that safe space where you can ask those questions and not be afraid to,
Yeah.
because I know ourselves, we've built out ethics simulation training, leaders on how to have conversations around sexism and racism and things along those lines. And yeah, it is so important because if you're a leader and you're faced with that, or you're somebody that's just interested in Indigenous cultures and you're meeting somebody who is Indigenous for the first time, might not know what are those right questions to ask. If you can go into something beforehand and gain some of that knowledge, then it puts you on that right path. Oh, I love it.
Oh, and it's so hopefully that will happen. And we've used BitSpace as a developer from Manitoba, and Dan and his team have been absolutely wonderful, like, to work with. I can't even tell you, like, really wonderful. It would be nice to maybe have an Indigenous developer too as well. Georgian College in the fall is starting a design and gaming program, which we're really excited about.
I'm excited.
I'll tell you, if I didn't love my job so much, I would leave and go to school and learn. I want to do that. I said to Angie, I think our next job after this is something to do with virtual reality, like, really. And so I said, I would love to go to school and learn how to create the worlds. That's what I'd love to do.
I just wanted to add too, with the virtual reality and the schools being able to come in and see our world and stuff like that, and adding the cultural aspect to it. I think it'll give students a much brighter idea as to who the Indigenous people are of Canada, because they were not taught in schools, and not since the 215 children that were found in Kamloops from the residential school, has the media grabbed at it and started to talk about it, whereas we've been telling people for years and years that the genocide's been going on for a long time. So for students to be able to learn this in school, to see what happened in Canada during all this time, and not going into a lot of depth into it, but being able to learn in their levels as to what really happened to Indigenous people, why we see so much things that's going wrong with Indigenous people. Then they start to realize, okay, that's probably why, because of all the intergenerational trauma that's happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a very good learning tool, and I do hope that the cultural aspect of it and the learning aspect of it does come full circle again for us. That means more work, Michele.
I don't care. I tell you, yes, we've done this on top of our jobs full time, but you know what? I don't care. I've enjoyed it so immensely. I can't even tell you. But I wouldn't want to do it with anyone other than Angie. I'll have to tell you, because she jumped in, because when I went to her and said, Angie, what about virtual reality in the language? And she said, okay. I said, okay, Rob wants to meet with us. I said, let's meet with him and find out what it's all about. And she like, just like how I thought of her 5 years ago. I thought, yep, she's the right person, and she has been. And so when she was talking about make sure that you're with the right team when you move forward here, and they have the passion, and she does. So and that's why it's so exciting to do this with her.
And it makes it so much easier as a group to be able to be on the same page with each other, and you just move along a lot faster. You start thinking the kind of the same line of things. So it was, I think, overall was a lot of hard work, but in another sense, it was very easy because of the people that we worked with. You know, Rob was fantastic at his job. Michelle's fantastic in her marketing and everything, and everybody picks up the slack somewhere, you know. So yeah, it was good. All around, it was really good.
Amazing. Yeah, sounds like a little startup within Georgian almost, coming from a startup background myself.
Oh,
Amazing.
thanks for Rob.
And so we're talking about the impact virtual reality can have in Indigenous language and preserving cultures. Curious, yourselves, lots of people, they may look at movies like Ready Player One or things along those lines and see this dystopian future of what virtual reality may be and what it may cause. What is your hope for where virtual reality may be in 5 to 10 years in the education space or just in general? Yeah.
I would like to see it in all schools and be able to learn language this way as well. I mean, because in order for you to learn a language, you have to immerse yourself into it. So you have to be constantly hearing it. So, and a lot of problems is that kids can learn it at school, but they don't have anybody to talk to practice with when they get home because they're not fluent, right? So in a way, this is going to help a family as well, right? If they can go in together and learn together as a family and be able to immerse themselves that way. I think that's what I would like to see happen, because we have that missing link with, okay, we're going to teach them here. And I noticed it with our students as well. They can be learning all this language while they're with us, but just being away from it at Christmas time for 2 or 3 weeks, it's hard for them to get back into it. They forget a lot of things. So that's what I mean. You just have to keep constantly being immersed in it. And I'm hoping that eventually that's going to happen. And I think the ones that are really passionate about learning the language and that will do it. I've seen it happen. But to be able to have all Indigenous students have a place to go to be able to learn it would be awesome.
Yeah, I think virtual reality is an amazing teaching tool. So it could add to endless possibilities. What I like about it the most is that within seconds, you can meet with someone across the world. And how amazing is that, you know, and learn about other cultures, other languages, and just anything that's educational, anything that, you know, can improve your mental health or your well-being, whatever it may be. And it's the next best thing, I think, to being in person with someone. Yes, you know, the pandemic taught us, oh yeah, we taught for 2 years online, but we were staring at little squares. And if the student didn't want to engage or the learner didn't want to engage, they just shut their camera off. And that is no way to have or build a relationship, right? And that's what I think about learning is too, as well, is you need that relationship building. The wonderful thing, and like Angie said, when we first went into alt space when in the pandemic, and I almost had tears in my eyes because we were forced to all stay in our houses, don't go out, wear masks, don't talk to people, you know, keep away from people and everything. And then I think Angie had her class in there, and then Mitchell, who teaches in language in our other program, well, he teaches in both programs, but he brought his class in too. So, and he's just standing there chatting away with one of Angie's students, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how cool is this? They're safe, you know, they're connecting, they're, you know, they're, even though they're not in person, they're still building a relationship. And, and I think being able to create yourself as an avatar gives people confidence, whereas a lot of people don't have confidence. And, because even though it is you that's in there, but your avatar can actually represent who you want to be, even, you know? So it does, if you really think about the virtual worlds and what it can do for individuals, you know, and it's different for everyone, like, you know, what it would do for them. But I really think for just even mental health and learning, I think it is part of our future, and it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And I think both you hit a few points there. Of one, that added confidence is amazing. The safety of being in virtual reality is amazing. And then kind of touched on it, like the different types of learning that you have access to. Because one, you have your professor or teacher that can join you and teach a class and have a conversation with you. But then I really liked your point, Angeline, about your family possibly being in. If you're a student and you bring your headset home and everyone has headsets in the future, let's say, you, like, I know for myself, I wasn't very like interested in French going through school, and I had to take the courses. But if one day in the future I have a kid and they're learning French in this virtual reality space and they come home and they're like, hey, I'm going to go and learn French, I might jump in with them and go on that kind of
And the beauty about this, Evan, is they don't need a headset. You can use your PC and go in that way. So whole family could go in and do it that way, right? As long as they have a good high-speed internet, a whole family, one can be on a headset, the other ones can be on iPads, PCs, even I don't know, can we get on it with an iPhone?
Depending on the platform. I don't know if Engage does that, but I know, like,
I
Rec
don't
Room,
think
for
it'd be that
example,
strong, especially because depends on our language in the natural environment has a lot of assets, I'll tell you. I don't know if a phone could run it.
Right.
The thing about the mental health part about it, Evan, is what I really like is you can build your avatar to make yourself look so sexy.
Oh yeah, I have a big gold jacket in my.
You can have different color. I wear glasses. I don't have to wear glasses when I'm in a virtual avatar, and I can have this beautiful figure and nice tight jeans on and running shoes and whatever, right? Whatever I feel like dressing up like, and that's the beauty about having those avatars and feeling like you do actually feel like that person when you're in there. So it's a boost too for your confidence, right?
Oh, for sure.
Well, it's like running too, eh? Evan, like if you can run, and so people who can't run anymore because of bad knees or bad backs or whatever, you can run in there and your brain actually tells you you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
Wow, what does that do to yourself? You know? It makes you smile, of course, or, you know, you run up a flight of stairs in 30 seconds. Like, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
I could even see,
can do, like, things.
It just makes me think, like, sorry. I was going to say, it makes me think, like, my grandma's in a retirement home, and she recently shifted into a wheelchair because she's not confident in walking long distances. But, like, maybe being in VR, even though she isn't walking or running in real life, that might kind of, like, well, one, boost her spirits, but then two, could mentally, I could see how that could be like, okay, well, now I'm going to try walking a little further in real life. Kind of thing. Interesting.
You know, when you're in the classroom and you're teaching all day and you're just really exhausted mentally, especially when you're teaching language, right? Because that your mindset is in the language all day. But for mental health reasons, we have this other platform called iLearn at Georgian, and Michele and I go in there once in a while, and there's actually a speedboat.
Yep.
We get in the speedboat and we'll ride around all over the water, and you're actually driving it and you're running around and all this other things. And, you know, just going in for 5 or 10 minutes in between classes is wonderful for your brain to just to give yourself a little release from everything else, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every Monday, our team, we start in VR. We have our VR meeting with whiteboards, but then before we go to work, we'll play paintball or fight dragons or different things.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
great way
I
to
want to
take
go
a
work
break.
for Evan, Angie.
No, you have to stay for another 20 years.
I have to stay with him for 20 years.
Well, as we're talking, we'll definitely have to stay connected and reconnect soon, because we've actually been working on a project with Georgian, with some of your AI development students, and we've developed, or we're working on right now, a language based like conversational tool. So it's for our
No
police
way.
training at the moment. So like, how can you have a conversation with a witness or a suspect, and it's just you talk and then the AI responds to you. I'd be really interested to see how we
Wow.
could continue that work in language teaching in other areas as well.
Wow.
Oh, Evan, that would be amazing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't even think of it until right now, but it's the perfect fit, I think. So.
Oh, have you come up to Georgian though? Have you come up to our campus?
Unfortunately, not yet. We're all remote calls so far, but hoping to come up with our CTO sometime soon, once the project starts to wrap up, at least.
Well, let me know, because it would be really nice to invite you to our resource center, and you can come see our space and stuff. That'd be really nice.
Amazing. That'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome.
Meet the
But-
language students. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's incredible.
Love it. Well, I see we're just past time here, so don't want to take up too much of your time. Is there anything else that we didn't get to, or that you want to mention or bring up, or anything that you would ask of the audience if they're able to help?
Well, eventually, because when Angie and I retire, we're going to need 2 people to replace us that have passion and that will carry on what we started. So
Yeah.
I think about that. I really do. I think about, we've started something so amazing and wonderful that when it comes our time, I'm hoping there'll be people that we can mentor to do all of this wonderful work. So, and I guess, because we, as you get older, because we're not as young as some people, you think about that. You think about the next generation of learners and how will they learn, and I'm hoping that this will stay within Indigenous studies programming for many years to come. I really do, and that we just grow upon it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that this gives our fluent elders a little bit more into realizing that this language is dying quite fast. We lost 6
Yeah.
community members this year that were fluent
Mm-hmm.
speakers, and they were always opposed to using electronical things to preserve the language and stuff like that. But we need to do it in a faster, quicker pace, and this is obviously the fastest way we can do it. And in order for our fluent speakers to see what's going on, and they come in and see what's going on in the virtual, I think they're going to change their minds and think, yeah, this is a really cool way to restore the language and revitalize it. And that's what my hope is anyway, that we can change those people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in virtual reality or in Indigenous language studies, definitely reach out to Michele and Angie and get connected on how you might be able to be part of the program moving forward, and then as well how maybe people can bring it to their school, and so you can continue to spread that word. I love it.
Oh, Evan, we can't thank you enough.
Oh no, thank you.
And
thank
I know
you so much.
I met you through virtual reality, which was really nice. And I look forward to meeting you in person one day. And but can't thank you enough for inviting Angie and I today. It means a lot to us.
Yeah, no, I look forward to meeting in person, hopefully sometime soon. And it is my honor to have you on the podcast. And yeah, it's so great to be able to chat.
Oh, thank you. Angie?
Thanks, Evan. Thanks, Evan. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
been wonderful, and that's what we need. Spread the word.
For sure, for sure. Well, hopefully we can help spread the word a little bit, and we'll make sure to share everything with you once the podcast is up. So yeah, thank you again for coming onto the podcast. And have a great day.
Thank you, Evan.
Miigwech, Evan. Miigwech. Have a great day.
Bamapi.
Bamapi.
Sorry, could you just translate for me so I know?
Later. We
Later?
don't have a word for goodbye in
Okay.
Ojibwe. So the word is Bamampi. So we'll see you again sometime.
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah.
Baman P.
Ba.
Ba.
Ma.
Ba.
Ma.
Ma. P.
Ba.
Ba.
Ma.
Ma. P.
Yeah. And you know what it's spelled? Bamaappii.
Oh, P-I-I. Okay.
Bamapi.
Yep,
Ba.
Bamapi. So it means see you later. And Miigwech means thank you. And that's Miigwech.
Mm-hmm.
So double I makes up me an E sound. E.
Okay.
Yeah. So miigwech. And sometimes
Miigwech.
you'll hear people say chi miigwech means like thank you very much. And so care.